Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for August 24th of 2023. Currently our threats for severe weather are mostly going to be in the same locations as yesterday. We do have an enhanced risk for the Detroit into northern Ohio with a extending marginal threat that does extend into northern Georgia, western North Carolina, and eastern Tennessee. This has mostly subsided, so our main threat is going to be this enhanced risk region, as well as a slight risk for pretty much the same location as yesterday for northern North Dakota, with an extending marginal threat that does extend into northern Nebraska. As for our threats for today, we do have a 5% tornado threat for the enhanced risk region, as well as a 2% tornado threat for northern North Dakota. As for our wind threat, we do have a 30% for the enhanced risk region with the possibility of violent winds, as well as a 5% for the slight risk region for northern North Dakota. As for hail, we do have two areas of 15%, mostly for small to medium hail. Taking a look at our 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, you do have a few areas of disturbances. We do have these 50% for the mid-Atlantic that are not going to pose a threat whatsoever to the United States. They are likely going to veer off to the north and not really come anywhere close to the United States. You also do have Tropical Storm Franklin here that is on track to become a Category 2 hurricane by sometime next week, but this is also not going to pose a threat to the United States. Our main threat to the United States as far as tropical weather goes is going to be this 60% chance with this disturbance in Latin America that could develop in the Gulf Coast and the southern Caribbean. This is going to definitely pose a threat to the hurricane-prone areas across the Gulf Coast. However, severity of this potential tropical development is not really going to be all that certain. I will definitely continue to monitor this over the next couple of days. However, as it stands, this doesn't really seem like it's going to be all that much of a huge threat. However, we could definitely see the possibility of maybe some high winds, as well as the possibility of some heavy rainfall to some areas that could be affected by this disturbance. But overall, as it seems, again, I will continue to monitor this. However, as it seems, this doesn't really pose all that much of a severe threat to the United States. Taking a look at our pivotal weather model, starting off with our 500 millibars like we usually do, you can see focusing on the northern slight risk region for northern North Dakota, you can see that we do have a shortwave trough that is expected to move out of Canada to trigger severe weather development for that slight risk region there. And you can see there are some strong veering of the winds associated with this shortwave trough. So this will definitely elongate photographs and allow for small to medium hail, as well as the possibility of one or two brief tornadoes with some directional shear that does come from the shortwave trough. But if we take a look at the enhanced risk region for northern North Dakota into the Detroit region, you can see that we do have a mid-level flow that is around the northeastern side of this high pressure system that is dominating the majority of the United States. This is going to be the main triggering factor for severe weather development for this enhanced risk region. And overall, without wind vectors, it is kind of hard to tell, but it does look like there is some veering of the winds there. And with strong instability, we are expected to have that intense instability plume just like yesterday across this region. So with some weak directional shear, but intense instability, that could definitely be bumping it up to a 5% tornado threat for this enhanced risk region. But overall, our main threats are going to be violent winds, the possibility of a few tornadoes for this particular location, and small to medium hail. Taking a look at our dew points, focusing on the enhanced risk region for the Detroit region into northern Ohio, you can see that we are expected to have intense amount of moisture in the atmosphere across this particular location. You are expected to see dew points that are going to be into the upper 70s and mid 70s, and I think there were even into the low 80s in some locations back towards Indiana and Illinois. So we could definitely see the possibility of intense amounts of instability across this region, definitely getting into the 4,000s, 5,000s range across this enhanced risk region, just like we had yesterday. And if we take a look at the northern slight risk region for northern North Dakota, you can see that we do have overall weaker dew points that are more so back towards the upper 60s and low 70s. However, this will still allow for the possibility of some fairly strong instability, possibly getting up to those upper 2,000s and 3,000s ranges. If we take a look at our temperatures, focusing on the enhanced risk region for northern Ohio and the Detroit region, you can see that we are expected to have hot temperatures across this region. But across the Central Plains and Midwest, we are expected to have even more intense temperatures. Temperatures that are going to be above 100 degrees, possibly getting up to 105 degrees, 107 degrees. So if you live in this particular location that is being affected by these intense temperatures, make sure you are definitely paying attention to heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke, and make sure if you have any plans outside, please stay hydrated, as this heat could become very dangerous after long extended periods of time. Even a short amount of time could definitely lead to heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke. But mainly focusing on the enhanced risk region for now, you can see that we do have temperatures that are going to be in the 80s and the low 90s, which will definitely bump up that instability with the intense dew points that we have up to those 4,000s and 5,000s ranges. And if we take a look at the slight risk region for northern North Dakota, you can see that we do have temperatures that are going to be in the 80s and the 70s, which will definitely allow for the possibility of intense amount of instability as well. Not really going to be as high as back towards the enhanced risk region. However, we could definitely see the possibility of instability that could reach the 2,000s to 3,000s ranges across this region. If we take a look at our instability, focusing on the enhanced risk region for northern Ohio into the Detroit region, you can see that we are expected to have overall weaker instability compared to yesterday. Instability yesterday was much higher. However, this is still extreme amounts of instability, getting into those upper 4,000s across Michigan, which will definitely support the possibility of a few tornadoes, and is actually bumping up that tornado threat up to a 5%, regardless of our weak directional shear. Intense instability will definitely, again, bump that up to a 5% tornado threat for this particular location. This will also support the possibility of violent winds across this area, as well as the possibility of small to medium hail with elongated photographs. And then if we take a look at the slight risk region for northern North Dakota, you can see that we do have some fairly strong instability that is going to be back towards the moderate ranges. We are going to see instability that is going to be in the 1,000s to 2,500 range, which will still support the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes with directional shear from that shortwave trough, as well as the possibility of small to medium hail and the possibility of some damaging winds for this particular location. If we take a look at our energy helicity index readings for our 5% tornado threat region, you can see that we do have intense energy helicity index readings that would definitely be indicative of that 5% tornado threat region. A lot of this is going to be a little bit contaminated by instability, by the intense instability that we had. And just like yesterday, we did have intense contamination that would be indicative of a significant tornado outbreak with energy helicity index readings. However, it was mostly being contaminated by instability, and there wasn't really a lot of directional shear to support those types of energy helicity index readings realistically. However, with overall weaker directional shear in the atmosphere, but intense amount of instability, that will definitely bump up our tornado potential up to a 5%, and will definitely support the possibility of a few tornadoes across this particular location. And then if we take a look at the 2% tornado threat for northern North Dakota, you can see that we do have some spotty energy helicity index readings that would definitely be indicative of that 2% tornado threat. With the instability that we have and the directional shear from that shortwave trough, we could definitely see the possibility of 1 or 2 brief tornadoes across northern North Dakota. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you live in any of the areas that I covered for today, please stay weather alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.